Hey, it's Patricia Murphy. It's Monday, and this is Seattle Now. Seahawks coach Pete Carroll made his strongest statements yet for racial justice over the weekend.
As we're speaking about all that's going on, and this is about racism in America, that white people don't know. They don't know enough.
The Athletic's Michael-Shawn Dugar is here to discuss, but first, let's get you caught up. COVID cases are flattening in King County, but the latest update from state health officials says flat is not good enough to open schools. And while the transmission rate of the virus looks to be declining, there are hotspots around the state. So Washington's Secretary of Health says keep those social gatherings small and keep masking up. Seattle's teachers union has a deal, and just in time since school starts for most students this coming Friday. The district says the first full week of school this year will be spent making sure students get off to a good start with remote learning, just 2 hours a day at first, before full instruction starts September 14th. And summer is winding down. As of late last week, sunset in Seattle will happen before 8 p.m., and you better enjoy those 7 o'clock hour sunsets, too, because they won't be around for very long. Sunset starts with a 6 by the end of September. The conversation around America's way forward on race shifted to a new familiar stage last week, sports, as athletes across the entire sports world have spoken out following the shooting of Jacob Blake in Wisconsin.
It's just ridiculous. And it just keeps going. There's no charges. Breonna Taylor, no charges, nothing. All we're asking is you live up to the Constitution. That's all we're asking for everybody.
The M's, Storm, and Sounders all skipped games. The Seahawks canceled practice and made sure every player on the team was registered to vote. And then there was Pete Carroll on Saturday. Michael-Shawn Dugar is here. He covers the Seahawks for The Athletic, and he's also the co-host of the Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast. Mike, thanks for taking the time.
Oh, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
So it's still training camp for the NFL, so the Seahawks haven't been able to make as big a statement as other pro sports teams that sat out games last week. But Saturday they canceled their practice, and Pete Carroll sat down and he gave a 15-minute press conference and his thoughts about race in this country.
The really amazing thing that I've learned is black people know the truth. They know exactly what's going on. It's white people that don't know. And it's not that they're not telling us. They've been telling us the stories. We know what's right and what's wrong. We just have not been open to listen to it.
Those are some pretty powerful words. You covered the Seahawks, and you've been to a lot of press conferences and heard a lot from Pete Carroll. What were you thinking when you heard this?
Full response requires some context. Earlier in the day, for some reason, I was really emotional that morning, thinking about Colin Kaepernick and Michael Bennett and other athletes, thinking about Jacob Blake. That was the morning after Chadwick Boseman had died. I was thinking about all that, and before Pete even spoke, and I was like, man, it's just really hard right now. And then when he got on to talk about on the Zoom, I did not realize we'd get this monologue. So while he was talking, I was emotional again. I was like, man, thank you. What took you so long? Because Pete began that presser letting us know that he's been coaching essentially since he was like 13, going all the way back to days coaching youth football. And that's like 50 years that he's been around athletes, most of them black. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, cool. You've been around for 50 years. Where you been, man? You've been at this party for a long time. You just pulled up. Black people have been screaming this for a very long time. And it has, like he said in that clip, been ignored. And I think that's really important. Like we've been unheard for so long. So to finally be heard felt really good, but it definitely was very frustrating that it took this long to get here.
Yeah. Seahawks players have been outspoken, but Pete mentioned the environment is different this year and that players feel like they can speak their minds. And he called it a process of truth-telling and reality checks. Have you seen this as you have been covering the team? What does he mean when he says that?
I think the difference in the environment is the willingness of white people to listen, right? Like, I can't be in the locker room right now because of COVID, but I don't imagine these conversations are totally dissimilar than what they were having in 2016 when Colin Kaepernick first took a knee, or in 2017 when Michael Bennett, defensive end for the Seahawks, had his life threatened by the police in Vegas. They had another hard conversation in September of 2017 when President Trump called players who were kneeling sons of bitches, and they talked about it in Tennessee in their hotel, how they were going to handle it. So they've had these difficult conversations before. The next step of it is the willingness to listen. And I think that's what's really, really happening. Why it took this long, I think each individual white person would have to look in their own soul and answer that. But I think that's a very important question, because once we uncover why it took people so long, we can maybe get to other people who are still waiting to come to the party.
So when I was listening to Pete Carroll, I was touched by what he's saying. And I'm anticipating that he's probably going to get some pushback, right? There are likely going to be Seahawks fans who think Pete Carroll should stick to Seahawks and not talk about this. Is it possible that he changed some minds, do you think?
I don't think so. I really think that we've hit a point in America where if your mind is not changed, it will not change. And I know there are some people who don't want to hear that and accept that as a reality. And I know why they're doing that, right? They're giving white people the benefit of the doubt in that, say, oh, no, they can change. No, man, some people just don't. Like, if you watch George Floyd die and you didn't change, I don't know what else you're waiting for. I'm done giving people the benefit of the doubt, right? And I think the people who haven't come on to this side, who ain't joining this party, they're not coming. And I also think the next step of that is completely ignoring their views entirely. I don't think we need to amplify the voices of anyone who is victim blaming Jacob Blake. I don't care if you're a politician or just some dude on the street corner. If that is your opinion, you do not deserve a voice. You don't. It's a human rights issue. You're not on the side of humanity. So your opinion is not valid and does not need to be heard. I know we're in a social media. Everyone has a voice. Anyone can have a podcast. Anyone can send a tweet. But don't mean we have to listen to you. A portion of Seahawks fans probably feel alienated by Pete's comments. Cool. Give your season tickets up. Don't watch. We'll be fine without you and your opinions. And I think white people in positions of power have to get to that point where they're done catering to the other side of this coin. Stop catering to them. They don't matter. The dollars don't matter. Their voices don't matter. Their opinions don't matter. Once that is kind of accepted as a fact, we can really move forward on some progress.
Michael-Shawn Dugar, I really appreciate your insight. Seahawks any good this year?
Well, after Pete Carroll's speech, I feel like they're going to win the Super Bowl. That was you want to talk about running through a wall for someone. He made it clear that racism isn't a problem for black people to fix. And once you say that, I can think your team can do anything.
Michael-Shawn Dugar covers the Seahawks for The Athletic and is co-host of the Seahawks Man to Man podcast. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Patricia Murphy, host of Seattle Now. Thank you for watching. If you think this work is important and want to support us, subscribe to our channel, leave us a comment, and check out KUOW.org for local news.